All right, so today we are doing lesson 1-1 notes, which is rates and unit rates. So a rate is a ratio or a fraction that compares two quantities with different kinds of units, and that is called a rate. An example would be if we had 160 heartbeats in 2 minutes. For a unit rate, it says when a rate is simplified so the denominator, which remember the denominator means the bottom of the fraction, is equal to 1, it is called a unit rate. So if we were to take our rate of 160 beats and we divided it by 2, we would get 80 heartbeats or 80 beats in 1 minute. Looking further below, it says common unit rates. So our cost per pound. This word per means division. It's written as cost divided by, so this line here is our division line, and then pound. Money will always be in the numerator. That is extremely important. For miles per hour, again, miles divided by the amount of hours. So miles over hours, and distance will be in the numerator and the time will always be in the denominator. Again, that is extremely important for when you're working on different questions. Miles per gallon, again, miles divided by the amount of gallons. And this is used when we are talking about how far cars can travel on a certain number of gallons of gasoline. So if we're looking down at example number 1, it says Adrian biked 24 miles in 4 hours. If she biked at a constant speed, how many miles did she ride in 1 hour? So if you're looking at that, that's going to be in miles per hour. So step 1, we need to identify the rate. So we have our miles over our hours. So we have 24 miles in 4 hours. For step 2, it says, how can we get the denominator to equal 1? So we want to have this equal to something over 1 for 1 hour. To get to 1, we have to divide by 4. 4 divided by 4 is going to get me to 1. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to make sure I do the same thing to the top. And 24 divided by 4 is 6. So my answer would be 6 miles in 1 hour. Go ahead and turn the page. So for example number 2, it says Mr. Black drove 220 miles on 8 gallons of gas. How many miles can he travel per gallon? So I have miles, per is my division, and then gallon. So I'm going to have 220 miles in 8 gallons. Again, I want to know how many miles in 1 gallon. So to get from 8 to 1, I'm going to divide by 8. So in the calculator, you would do 220 divided by 8, and that would get you 27.5 miles in 1 gallon. Example number 3. It says, why should money go in the numerator? Let's see what happens when we put money in the denominator. So it says Tammy bought 9 juice boxes for $2. So if we had 9, I'm going to put JB for juice boxes and $2 in the bottom. If I'm looking for that, I'm going to have 1 in the bottom, so I would divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. So this means that we would have 4.5 juice boxes for $1. So you would write this means 4.5 juice boxes for $1. Does that make sense? I don't think so. We don't ever calculate how much of something we get per dollar. We want to know how much something is. So how much is it for one item? So it says now let's calculate this problem correctly using the unit price. So the cost per juice box. So we have $2 for 9 juice boxes. We want to know though how much is one juice box. So from here, to get from 9 to 1, I would divide by 9. And $2 divided by 9 is going to get me 0.22222, and it's going to keep repeating. But with money, we only want to be able to use 2 decimal place values. So this would be 22 cents for one juice box. Okay, number 4. It says the price of 3 different bags of dog food is given in the table below. Which size bag has the lowest price per pound? The first one here was done for us. We have a 40-pound bag for $49. Remember, we have our money on the top and our pounds on the bottom. So we have $49 for 40 pounds. From there, we divided by 40, and we got 1.225 over 1, which when you round, you would take that 5 and round that 2 up to a 3. So we have $1.23 for 1 pound. For a 20-pound bag of dog food for $23.44, I would put my money on the top. So $23.44 for 20 pounds. From there, I would divide by 20 to get how much it is for 1 pound. So here I would get, when I divided my calculator, 1.172. But I can't have 172 cents. So I need to round, and this would then round to $1.17 for 1 pound. Now for our 8-pound bag of dog food, I would have $9.88 for 8 pounds. I want to get down to 1 pound, so I would divide by 8. So $9.88 divided by 8, I would get in the calculator 1.235, but I need to round that 5, taking the 5 and rounding the 3, and this would round to $1.24 for 1 pound of dog food. So which one is the cheapest between the 3? You would have your 20-pound bag for $23.44. Go ahead and flip it to the last page. So for number 5, we have using our unit rate to answer a follow-up question. So Lexi painted 2 faces in 8 minutes at the craft fair. At this rate, how many faces can she paint in 40 minutes? So we want to know how many faces per 1 minute. So in step 1, we have to calculate the unit rate. So we have 2 faces being painted in 8 minutes. We want to know how much of the face can be painted in 1 minute. So I'm going to have 1 on the bottom. From here, I would divide by 8, and I would get 0.25, not money. So 0.25 faces. So that means 1/4 of the person's face could be painted in 1 minute. But we need to find out for 40 minutes. So all I'm going to do is take that 0.25, I'm going to times it by 40, and I would get 10 faces. Okay, the extra practice at the bottom. So number 1, Greg worked for 6 hours on Sunday and earned $300 for doing yard work for his neighbors. Calculate the unit price or price per hour of work. So we would have our money, so $300. Okay, and on the bottom, we would have our 6 hours because he got $300 in 6 hours. We're trying to find our unit rate, so for 1 hour, so I'm going to go ahead and divide by 6. And 300 divided by 6 is 50, so $50 in 1 hour. Number 2, Tito wants to buy some peanut butter to donate to the local food pantry, and he wants to buy as much as possible. Which brand should he buy, and which is the cost the least per ounce? So we have Nutty, Grandma's, Bees, and Save-A-Lot. So for Nutty, we would have $2.19 for 12 ounces. We want to know how much it is for 1 ounce. So we would divide by 12, and I would get rounded 18 cents per ounce. For Grandma's, I would have $2.79 for 18 ounces. I would want to find out how much for 1 ounce, so I would divide by 18. And that would give me 16 cents per ounce. For Bees, I would have $4.69 for 28 ounces. So I would divide by 28 to get down to 1. And that would give me rounded 17 cents per ounce. And then the last one, which is Save-A-Lot, would be $6.60 for 40 ounces. You would divide by 40. And you would get rounded 17 cents per ounce. So in the end, which one is the one that we would cost the least per ounce? That would be Grandma's at 16 cents per ounce. Okay, our last question here, it says at the grocery store it costs $7.40 for 5 pounds of cheese. How much will it cost for 1.5 pounds of cheese? So I have $7.40. Remember, money always goes on the top. For 5 pounds. I want to get that down to 1 pound, so we would divide by 5. And I would get $1.48 per pound. And I want to know how much it is for 1.5 pounds. So I'm going to take 1.48 times 1.5, and I would get $2.22.